So what we're looking at is finishing up some more of these graphing ones. When we look at this question, we want to figure out where is my stopping point, and that's going to be at that 2. So this one is going to go to the left, and it's an open circle. This one's going right. That's an open circle. And so when I take my black line, or my blue line, negative y equals negative 5/2 x minus 1. And I'm going to test it at the point of, I want to see what's happening at that 2. So I'm going to see where that open circle is. So I'm going to plug in 2 for my x so I can find my y. So y is equal to negative 5/2 times my 2 minus 1. So y is equal to negative 5 minus 1, or y is equal to negative 6. And so I'm going to come over here and put an open circle at positive 2, negative 6. Now, I need to find my slope of this line. Remember, slope is what's in front of your x. You have it in slope-intercept form. So what's in front of my x is at negative 5/2. And since I need to go left, I know I need to go left 2. So if I need to be negative, that means I need to rise and go left 2. So rise 5, go left 2. My next dot, rise 5, go left 2. And then I no longer have a spot for my numbers, so I'm going to go ahead and start graphing my lines. And so when I do that, I'm going to start at that open circle, and I'm going to go back to the left. I cannot go to the right on this one. And at the end of it, I'm going to put my arrow. So now let's take the green line. Again, my important spot to test is at 2. So I'm testing when x is equal to 2, because that's that point where I need to figure out what's happening. And so now I'm going to take that green line, y equals x plus 2, and I'm going to plug in that 2. So y equals 2 plus 2. So y is equal to 4. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that point at 2, 4. Again, it's another open circle. Now I need to find my slope. My slope is 1/1. And I need to go right. So if I'm going right, that means I need to rise. So rise 1, right 1, until I get off the graph. Oops, sorry, at the wrong spot there. And I do it until I'm off my graph. Put my arrow needs to go to the right. So I know my arrow's over there. And so now I need to identify my domain and range. And so for my domain, my farthest to the left that I go is going to be that arrow. The arrow is going to keep on going until I can't go any farther on the left. So I go from negative infinity. And now let's test out and see what's happening in this middle point. So at 2, I can't be here, and I can't be here. So that means I can't be anywhere with 2. So that's my point that I'm leaving out. And so to do that, when we're doing interval notation, it's going to look like this every time. So whatever number you're leaving out, you'll put in the center. The 2 these will match. And you'll put the union symbol in the middle. So now let's do our range. Remember, range is low, high. So my lowest value is at this -6. My highest value is that arrow, which goes up. So my low is -6. My high was infinity. That had a parenthesis here because I had an open circle. And so now, on number 6, what's different here is we now have 3 lines. So let's take it and we're going to do the same as we started off last time. This is going to be to the left. And it's going to be a closed dot. This one's going to be in the middle. And it's going to be an open dot and another open dot. So in the middle one, you're going to have 2 different dots you need to identify. And on the end one is, for the right-hand side, is a closed dot. So the left and right are going to go off to the arrows. The middle is going to be a line that connects those. So let's take these one at a time. Let's start off on my left. So again, this, remember, can be replaced with y equals. So y equals -1, and that's when I'm to the left. Of -5. So I'm going to come down here to -5. And I'm going to go down to -1, put an open dot, and then it's going to be a line that goes to the left from there. Or a closed dot, excuse me. Now, let's take our middle section, this green line. We have 2 values we need to test. We need to test that -5 and we need to test the 1. So my first one I want to test is whenever it's -5. And so my equation was y equals -x minus 3. And so if I'm testing out what happens at -5, y equals -5 minus 3. So 5 minus 3 is what my y is equal to. So y is equal to 2. So at -5, I am at +2 with an open circle. Now let's test our other point. And so the next point we need to test is at -x minus 3 is what's happening at that 1. So y is equal to -1 minus 3. So in other words, -1 minus 3 is -4. So at 1, -4, I have another open circle. Now, I don't have to worry about my slope on this one because it's just connecting those 2 locations. There is no arrow because it's in the middle. So now let's take that bottom section. Again, y equals 6. So that's a horizontal line. And this is when we're right of 1. So I'm going to come up here to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put a closed dot. And I'm going to go to the right. So that gives me all of my graphs. Now let's take and look at finding my domain and range. And so when I'm looking at my domain and range, I need to look and see for domain, where's my farthest most to the left and right, and is there any gaps? So if I look here, going from left, I hit this point, I've got -5 covered because it's right down here. So that one's good. I go until I get to 1, and it's not covered here, but we are covered here, so that's good. And we go until we hit the arrow. So I go from -infinity all the way to +infinity. Now let's do our range. Where I'm looking at bottom, top. So if I start my lowest point is this -4. And then I keep going up. I stop here at 2. Stop at 2, and that's an open parenthesis. Or a parenthesis because it's open circle. And so now let's take and where that black line is not a part of the graph. When I keep going though, I can find higher up points. And so when I go up really high, I see that this value is my next point that I'm at, which is at that height of 6. So that's going to be unioned with that 6. And so now let's take this one. We are going to have 3 different lines we graph. And so let's take that top line. We're going to have a closed dot, and I am graphing to the left. The next line is an open dot followed by another open dot, and I'm doing the middle. Remember, there's no arrows here if it's in the middle. And the last thing I'm doing is this bottom one, and it's another closed dot, and it's looking at going to the right. And so, starting off with the top one, again, I think about this as y equals. So y equals 2x, and the value I want to test this one at is at -2, so that's my x value. So y equals 2 times -2, which is -4. So at -2, -4, I have a closed dot, and I'm going back to the left, so I need to have my slope from there. I know I need to go left, so I need to find what needs to happen. So my slope is what's in front of my x, so 2/1. And I want it to be positive, so that means I need to go down and left. So down 2, left 1. Down 2, left 1. Now let me graph that. Starting off with the dot that I started with, and then I'm going to go off the paper. And don't forget that this is an arrow at that end. So now, when I'm looking at graphing my blue line, there are 2 order pairs I need to look out for. I need to figure out what's happening at -2 and what's happening at 4. So you have to do both of these numbers. And so y is equal to -1 minus x is what I'm using. So y equals -1 minus a -2, which gives me a negative, this will become a +1 or +2. So when I add those, I get a +1. So at -2, +1 is an open circle. Now I'm going to do the next value, which is y equals -1 minus my other point, which is 4. 1 minus 4 is -5. So -5 is my value. And so I'm going to go until I get to +4 and -5. And I'm going to draw my line in between those two. This time there are 0 arrows because it's in the middle. So the last one we're going to do is y equals -3. And that's the value we're going to start off at. So we're going to start off when x is equal to 4. And so the only y value I can come out of this is -3. So at +4, I'm at -3. It's a closed dot, and it's a horizontal line going back to the right. And so when I'm looking at my domain, I have an arrow going to the left. I have an arrow going to the right. Now let's test out what's happening in between. So at 2, I'm here. At 4, I'm here. So I cover everything from -infinity to +infinity. Range. Remember, that's low, high, or bottom, top. So my bottom was that negative arrow. And so as I go up, I've got something happening all the way until I get to +1. So at +1, that's an open circle, so it's a parenthesis. So that's my domain and range. One last one. So again, we're looking at changing that to y. So we want to think about our domain breakdown. So we want everything to the left of 0. So that's an open circle going left. Now my middle has a closed dot, and I'm looking at stuff that's in the middle, followed by an open dot. And on the right, I'm going to have a open dot. And so again, we're going to start the same way we have been. We're going to try to figure out what's happening at each of these crucial points. So at 0, what is our y value? So on my red line, y equals -3x. So when I plug in that 0, y is equal to -3 times my x, or times my x, which is in this case 0. So y is equal to 0. So I'm at 0, 0 with an open dot. And my slope is -3 over 1. And I'm wanting to go left. So I'm going left. That means I need to go up to have a negative slope. So rise 3, left 1. Rise 3, left 1. And I'm going to go ahead and draw my line with the arrow going towards the left. Now let's switch out and let's do our blue line. So what I'm working with is at -1/2 x minus 1. That's what y is equal to. I'm wanting to find out what's happening at 0, comma something and at 6, comma something, because those are the two endpoints. And so I'm going to plug those in. Y equals -1/2 times 0 minus 1. So half of nothing is still nothing, minus 1, so -1. And so let's do the other one. Y equals -1/2 of my 6 minus 1. So y is equal to -3 minus 1, which is equal to -4. So at 0, I'm at -1, and that one had a closed dot. And then I go to +6, and I'm at -4. And this time I have an open dot, and I'm going to connect those two with a line. So now that I have that line drawn, let's go ahead and do my right side. So my equation is y equals x minus 7. The point I need to test is at that 6, because that's the only number I have here. And so y equals 6 minus 7. And so y is equal to -1. So when I come over here, I go over to 6, go down to -1, and I'm going to put a open circle there. So now I need to move with my slope. So my slope is a +1 over 1. There's no number in front of that x. And since I want to go right, that means I need to rise and go right 1. Rise 1, go right 1. And so now let me draw in my graph, my line, starting off with that open circle. I'm going to go over to the left, and I'm going to go ahead and put my arrow at the end. And so my graph looks like this. Now let's go ahead and find my domain and range. Right up here at the top. My domain. So if I go into the left, I have my farthest left is going to be that arrow. And so now as I'm going towards the right, I hit down here at that 0. I need to check. That one checked. Now I go down. That one can't be there. It can't be here. So at that 6 value, I have nothing. So I need to put comma 6, comma, or parenthesis, unioned with 6, 2, and I go to an arrow. So positive infinity. Now let's do range. When I look at my lowest value I go to is -4. I can't be there, but I'm going to keep going up. Well, here, I've got that one covered, and then I keep going And that goes up to positive infinity. So that's my domain and range for this last question.